So Adam alayhi salam, prior to his death, he used to live with Sheeth alayhi salam and with all these other children of his in the mountainous regions, in the mountains. And now this young man decided, or Qabil decided, to go to the valleys and to go to the flat land somewhere further away.
It says that Iblis, lanatullah alayhi lanatullah, he made himself to a form of a young boy, like an apprentice. And he went to a blacksmith who used to work with metal. And he asked if he could be an apprentice for that blacksmith. And what he did was, he worked for him and he designed a flute. And with that flute he came out and he introduced it to everyone.
He slowly started making sounds, a sound that people had never heard before. Because there were no sounds that people had heard. That was the beginning of time. And now he created a little drum and he beat it and everybody would come. What's that sound? And they would come around him and watch. Then he got a bit of metal and he started hitting it, and then it created a sound and they came. And then he made a bugle and he started blowing into it and it created a sound and they came and they were excited. Wow, these people are intelligent. They have advanced much more than us. And they got so engrossed in it that they slowly started forgetting the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
And so the flute was made and it sounded nice. It says that when he brought the flute to them, they started to move their bodies to the flute. When you hear musical instruments, the more you hear, the more every part of your body reacts to it. So they began to dance.
This is how they introduced the musical instruments into existence. And through that, he would control them. They literally set aside a day, an evening, a Saturday evening, and amazingly, to this day, it lasts. To this day, it lasts. They set aside that evening where he would create these sounds, everybody would come around, and everybody would listen to him. And everybody would literally party, they would party.
It says that the people of the mountain began to hear this flute. Some men were passing by close and they heard the flute. They liked the sound and they went in a direction, because he said they didn't know where they were. They heard the flute one day and it attracted them and they went towards that direction. And these men, they saw the women of the land.
Some of them decided, let's just have a peep at what's happening. So they came down from the mountains and they went. And from a distance they were watching and they had seen, and it pulled them. Imagine, they did not intend to engage in evil, but when they saw everybody's partying, and what did they see? They saw very good looking females. And so they went closer. And when they went closer, they were seen. Subhanallah. They were seen and they were good looking men. So the women began to engage in what is known as tabarruj. Tabarruj meaning to start displaying their beauty and to start dressing up in order to attract. This was the first time Shaytan taught them this.
And the men and the women began to intermingle, and through the music and the getting together in such a fashion, it resulted in the natural and biological interactions, reactions inside the man and the woman, and the Shaytan played his role. And so free mixing began to occur without boundaries. Our scholars say that this is when zina began. This is when adultery and fornication began. Slowly but surely, with the introduction of this first flute and music, which called for a celebration between men and women gathering and dancing, and over time, zina was carried out.
Magic is a contract, an agreement between the magician and the jinn. On one side we have the first party is the magician. And on the other side we have the second party, and the second party is the jinn. But this is not a contract which is understood by any legal system in the world. It is not a contract of agreement upon birr and taqwa. Instead, it is a contract upon al-ithm wal-udwan, upon sin and transgression. And it is a contract made up of two parties. The first party is the magician, and the second party is the jinn. And the magician says, I will do some stuff for you and you will do some stuff for me. And we will make this agreement between ourselves. So this is a more comprehensive definition of magic, because it covers spells, which are, I guess, the agreement made verbally, incantations, it covers to the tying of knots and the blowing on knots, and all of the other forms that magic takes. But all of these definitions give us a little bit more information, and they give us an idea about just what the reality of magic is. But there is nothing clearer and nothing more easy to understand or easier to understand than the explanation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of magic in the Quran. And so we are going to listen to the ayah.
واتبعوا ما تتلو الشياطين على ملك سليمان وما كفر سليمان ولكن الشياطين كفروا يعلمون الناس السحر وما أنزل على الملكين ببابل هاروت وماروت وما يعلمان من أحد حتى يقولا إنما نحن فتنة فلا تكفر فيتعلمون منهما ما يفرقون به بين المرء وزوجه وما هم بضارين به من أحد إلا بإذن الله ويتعلمون ما يضرهم ولا ينفعهم ولقد علموا لمن اشتراه ما له في الآخرة من خلاق ولبئس ما شروا به أنفسهم لو كانوا يعلمون.
So far, I've explained what music and magic are. In the next episode, I'll show you how both are used together in music industry.